what's happening. The left is making commentary about Zelenskyy being a hero, being a liberator, being a freedom fighter for Ukraine, fighting for the democracy in Europe. This is complete bogus, leftist, hyperbolic propaganda. They don't focus on the truth. They don't focus on the fact that Zelenskyy canceled elections, Zelenskyy persecuted Christians, shut down churches, and they don't focus on the fact that Zelenskyy doesn't have any support in Ukraine.
Here is something that the political establishment and propaganda media don't want you to know. Ukraine's President Zelenskyy has just banned yet another political opposition party, one that questioned his legitimacy as president, and used Ukraine's Department of Justice to mandate the seizure of this party's members' assets. Now, this is just the latest of Zelenskyy's actions to do this sort of thing. He began banning major political opposition parties in 2022, when he also started banning TV channels that were associated with his political opponents. And he took over total control of Ukraine's largest television networks, now controlled by their government. Now, Zelenskyy's presidential term ended on May 20th. He canceled elections in the name of martial law, suspending Ukraine's constitution so that he could stay in power.
Now is the time of defense, the time of the battle that determines the fate of the state and the people. It is not the time for manipulations, which only Russia would expect from Ukraine. I believe that now is not the right time for elections.
Also, Zelenskyy, bolstered by a meeting with Rhino Congress people before he met with Trump, full of himself, boasting about how he can continue the war and how he can fight, how he's the president in wartime, and he met with Rhino Congress people probably to assure him how the money would keep flowing. Don't worry about it. Once this mineral deal is in place, the money will keep flowing through American businesses, and our kickback as rhinos will continue.
How you doing? Hi. Good to see you, pal.
Thank you so much.
Good to see you.
You look good. How's it going?
Really?
How you doing?
Yes.
Hang in there.
Hang on.
Got a lot of friends here.
And Trump shut that down. He shut down foreign aid going to Ukraine, and he shut down all of their support for their energy grid and infrastructure.
The U.S. administration is considering cutting off all current military aid to Ukraine after failed talks with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy, the Washington Post reported, citing a senior administration official. It is noted that this decision, if adopted, will concern radars, vehicles, ammunition and missiles worth billions of dollars that are awaiting shipment to Ukraine.
What is happening now is that Zelenskyy is out in the wind.
І усі ми розуміємо, що зараз у воєнний час, коли є безліч викликів, абсолютно безвідповідально, якось так легковажно, та граючись, вкидати.
You've done a lot of talking. Your country is in big trouble.
I know.
You're not winning.
I know.
You're not winning this. You have a damn good chance of coming out okay because of us.
Mr. President, we are staying in our country, staying strong from the very beginning of the war. We've been alone, and we are thankful. I said thanks
you haven't
in
been
this
alone.
cabinet,
You
and
haven't
not
been
only
alone.
in this cabinet.
We gave you, through this
said
stupid president, $350 billion.
You voted
we gave
for
you
your
military
president.
equipment,
You
and you
voted
men
for
are
your
brave,
president.
but they had to use our military.
What about West?
If you didn't have
You
our
invited
military
me.
equipment,
You invited
if
me
you
to
didn't
speak.
have our military equipment, this war would have been over in 2 weeks.
In 3 days, I heard it from Putin. In 3 days, this is something
Maybe
new.
less.
But the leftist propaganda media, the legacy media, they don't tell you how he conscripts his men into his army to get sent to the front lines, to get blown apart by drones.
What kind of diplomacy, JD, you are speaking about? What do you mean?
I'm talking about the kind of diplomacy that's going to end the destruction of your country.
Yes, but if you
Mr. President, with respect, I think it's disrespectful for you to come into the Oval Office and try to litigate this in front of the American media. Right now, you guys are going around and forcing conscripts to the front lines because you have manpower problems. You should be thanking the President for trying to bring an end to this conflict.
Have you ever been to Ukraine that you say what problems we have?
Yet here he is, in this meeting, called out by J.D. Vance. His conscription methods, sending soldiers to the streets of Ukraine and kidnapping men, throwing them into vans, sending them to the front lines, to the meat grinder. Oh, but the leftist propaganda media, the legacy media, they don't tell you about that. They just blow over that as if it never happened. But here is proof. Here is video of that happening. Zelenskyy, a hero for democracy? Zelenskyy, a savior of Europe? No. What Zelenskyy is a dictator who has shut down elections, shut down opposition parties, shut down Christian churches, a dictator who bombed people in Ukraine, his own citizens, because they consider themselves more Russian than Ukrainian, who now live in the occupied parts of Russia, who are being protected by the Russian forces from the continual persecution and bombing of Zelenskyy's army. His army, who is now made up of kidnappees sent to the meat grinder. Ukraine has one of the largest proportion of people fleeing the country. They have a wide diaspora, yet none of this is covered in the legacy media. The only thing they focus on is how Trump has abandoned his allies, how Trump is ruining the relationships with the European Union and destabilizing world politics. No, what Trump is doing here is something very smart, very politically astute. He is signing up Zelenskyy to the only way that Ukraine can retain its sovereignty. Making a mineral deal with the United States ensures that Ukraine retains its sovereignty, America retains its superiority in the area of artificial intelligence and future technologies, and that Russia does not continue to attack Ukraine and stops the war. This agreement would have ensured all of that, and destroyed because Zelenskyy's petulance and his fear of losing out on those valuable dollars flowing his way, now he's left out in the wind, twisting like a limb about to fall off a tree on its ass. And for that, we should all be thankful. This war has to end. The meat grinder has to end. A whole generation of Ukrainian men destroyed for what? 3 years of slaughter. And President Trump is the man who can do that. Stay safe, everyone. Mr. Peacoat out.